Every conspiracy theory starts the same way. Someone looks at something old, something massive, something that shouldn't have been possible for the people who supposedly built it, and they ask, quite reasonably, how? I used to make my living answering that question. Not with the truth, with content. I ran a channel. I won't say the name, it doesn't matter anymore, and I've since taken every video down. About the Great Pyramid of Giza, alien builders, lost civilizations, energy weapons disguised as tombs, the usual. 10 million subscribers who wanted to believe that history was a lie somebody got paid to keep telling. I didn't believe a word of it. That's important. I want you to understand that when this started, I was a cynic being paid to sound like a true believer. I'm not a cynic anymore. It began with an email. Not a fan, not a crank. A woman named Dr. Amara Whitfield, an actual Egyptologist, formerly of Cairo University, who'd read my more outlandish claims with what she called professional horror. She wanted to meet. She said she had something that would either destroy my channel or make it the most important thing I'd ever produced. I flew to Cairo in March. I remember the heat first, a heat that sits on your chest like a hand. I remember the pyramids themselves, which never look real the first time, too geometric, too certain of themselves against a sky that has no right to be that blank. Dr. Whitfield met me at a cafe near the Giza Plateau, and she did not look like a woman about to hand me a viral video. She looked like a woman who hadn't slept in a long time.
I need you to understand something before I say anything else,
she told me.
I am not one of your people. I don't believe in ancient aliens. I don't believe Atlantis built these things with sound waves. I believe in stratigraphy and quarry marks and 20 years of peer-reviewed work.
She lit a cigarette with a hand that wasn't quite steady.
And 3 months ago, my team found a chamber that isn't supposed to exist.
I'd heard this before. Everyone claims a hidden chamber. It's the oldest trick in the genre. A secret room the government supposedly doesn't want found. I told her as much, gently. She didn't argue. She just slid a tablet across the table and pressed play. The footage was muon detection scan data, the real kind, the kind actual research teams use to find density anomalies inside solid stone without drilling. I'd used footage like it before, decorated with dramatic music to imply exactly the kind of nonsense she said she hated. But this scan was different. Below the Queen's Chamber, beneath 30 meters of solid limestone that geological surveys had mapped for a century, there was a void. Not a crack, not a natural cavity, a void, symmetrical, roughly the dimensions of a room, positioned at a depth and angle that made no structural sense for a tomb.
We didn't announce it,
she said.
We went in ourselves. A narrow bore, camera only, 3 weeks ago.
She wouldn't meet my eyes. I need someone with an audience to see what we found. Because if I publish this through normal channels, it will be buried. Not covered up. She smiled, and it wasn't a real smile.
Buried. Reviewed to death. Delayed for a decade while men in committees decided isn't good for tourism.
I asked her what was down there. She turned the tablet toward me and pressed play on a second file. The camera footage was grainy, lit by a single LED rig on the end of a fiber optic cable. It showed a passage, hand-cut, not machine-bored, the marks unmistakably ancient, descending at a steep angle through raw stone. Then it opened into a chamber. The chamber was empty. That was the first strange thing. No sarcophagus, no funerary goods, no hieroglyphs praising the pharaoh's journey into the afterlife. just bare stone walls, and at the center of the floor, a single, perfectly circular depression, about the size of a manhole cover, filled with something that looked, even through a cheap camera, unnaturally black. Not shadow black, absorbing black, the way a hole in the world would look if you filmed it. And carved into the walls, in a script Dr. Whitfield said predated known hieroglyphic writing by an impossible margin, were rows and rows of the same symbol, repeated with an obsessive, almost desperate regularity. "What does it say?" I asked her. She was quiet for a long moment.
My translator quit the day after we filmed this,
She said.
He wouldn't tell me why. He just said he wasn't going back down there, and neither should anyone else.
She stubbed out her cigarette.
I translated the repeating symbol myself, with what vocabulary we have for proto-hieroglyphic. It isn't a name. It isn't a title.
She looked at me.
It's closer to an instruction. Best I can render it in English, it says, "Do not wake it counting."
I want to tell you that I laughed. I did laugh, actually. A short, uncomfortable bark. The kind of laugh you make when your body wants to reject something before your mind finishes processing it. Dr. Whitfield didn't laugh back.
There's one more thing,
She said.
Every member of the team who went down that shaft has reported the same thing since, independently. We haven't told each other. We've just each separately come to me, one at a time, over the last 3 weeks.
What thing?
Counting.
She said.
They hear counting, at night. A voice, always the same cadence, always in a language none of us can place. It doesn't stop until they answer it, and once you answer...
She stopped herself.
Once you answer, what?
It knows your number, she said.
And it starts counting down.
I should have left Cairo that night. I want that on the record, for whoever eventually finds this. I had every reason to fly home and let Dr. Whitfield's story become someone else's problem. Instead, I asked to see the shaft myself. She took me 2 nights later, after the plateau closed to tourists. Through a maintenance gate her old credentials still opened. We didn't discuss whether this was legal. I don't think either of us cared anymore. The borehole was narrower than I expected. A segmented aluminum ladder threaded down through raw rock that smelled of nothing. No dust, no mineral tang, just a flat, cold absence of smell that felt wrong in a way I couldn't articulate. Dr. Whitfield went first. I followed with a headlamp and a phone I intended to film everything on, out of pure professional instinct, even as every other instinct told me to turn around. The chamber, in person, was smaller than the footage suggested, and somehow much colder. A cold that didn't feel like temperature so much as absence, like standing in a room where sound itself was being quietly subtracted. My headlamp beam looked thin against the dark, thinner than it should have. The black depression in the center of the floor was exactly as the video showed it. Up close, I understood immediately why Dr. Whitfield's camera had struggled to capture it. It wasn't reflecting light. It wasn't absorbing light in the way a dark material absorbs light. It was simply refusing the light, the way a closed eye refuses an image.
Don't get close to it,
Dr. Whitfield said, and her voice had dropped to something just above a whisper, the kind of whisper people use in places that feel like they're listening. I didn't get close. I stood near the entrance and filmed the walls instead. The endless carved rows of that single repeated symbol, floor to ceiling, on every surface, in a density that suggested not devotion, but panic. Like whoever carved this chamber had been racing against something, trying to seal a warning into stone before they ran out of time, or air, or nerve. And then, from the depression at the center of the room, so quietly I initially mistook it for the ringing in my own ears, I heard a voice begin to count. It wasn't in English, It wasn't in any language I recognized, and yet, impossibly, I understood the numbers the way you understand your own heartbeat, not through translation, but through recognition. 1, 2, 3. Slow, patient, evenly spaced, rising from that black circle like it was reading itself up through a well. Dr. Whitfield grabbed my arm so hard I felt her nails through my jacket.
Do not answer it.
She said.
Whatever you do not say a number back.
I want to explain what it feels like to hear something count toward you in the dark, because I don't think words do it justice. It isn't fear, not exactly. Fear is what you feel before something happens. This was different. This felt like being noticed, like the counting wasn't random, wasn't ambient, but was specifically, deliberately moving toward a number that belonged to me, personally, the way your birthday belongs to you, or your mother's voice, or the sound of your own name.
4, 5.
I did not answer. I want that understood clearly. I did not say a single word. But somewhere around the count of 7, the light of my headlamp guttered, not flickered, guttered, like a candle caught in a draft that had no business existing 30 meters under solid stone. And in that half-second of near darkness, I felt something brush against the inside of my skull. Not my skin, not my ear, the inside. Like a cold finger tracing the underside of a thought. And a voice, my own voice, spoken back to me from somewhere behind my own eyes, said a number. It said,
31.
I have never told anyone what that number means to me, because it isn't a public fact. It isn't written anywhere. It's the number of days left in a countdown my doctor gave me 11 years ago when I was 22 and dying of something the antibiotics eventually, barely, caught in time. 31 days, he told my mother, if the infection reached my blood before the medication worked. It didn't. I lived. I have never told a living soul that number. I certainly never told Dr. Amara Whitfield, whom I had met 3 days prior. We left the chamber. I don't remember climbing the ladder. I remember being on the surface, on the cold sand under an indifferent sky, breathing like a man who'd just been pulled from water. Dr. Whitfield sealed the shaft herself 2 days later with concrete, without notifying the Ministry of Antiquities, without publishing a single paper. I asked her why once it was done.
Because every one of my team who's heard it counted, and every one of them heard a number that meant something only to them. And I did the math on the pattern. It isn't counting up at random. She looked at me with an expression I still see sometimes, in the seconds just before sleep. It's counting toward 0. Everyone's 0 is different, but it always reaches it eventually.
What happens when it does? I asked. She didn't answer that question. She has never answered that question. I don't think she knows, and I've come to believe she's afraid to find out on anyone's behalf, including her own. I flew home. I quietly deleted every video I'd ever made about the pyramids, the alien builder theories, the lost civilization content, all of it. Not because Dr. Whitfield asked me to, but because I could no longer stomach the thought of turning what I'd heard in that chamber into entertainment. Some things shouldn't be monetized. I understand that now in a way I didn't before. It has been 11 months since Cairo. I sleep with a sound machine running white noise every night because silence has started to feel like an invitation. Twice, only twice, and I am grateful it has only been twice, I have woken in the depths of the night to a very quiet, very patient voice, counting somewhere just behind the noise of the machine, working steadily upward through numbers that don't belong to me. Which means, somewhere out there, it is still counting towards someone else's zero. I think about Dr. Whitfield's translation often. Do not wake it counting. I used to assume that meant don't disturb something asleep. I don't think that anymore. I think it means something colder, something closer to an instruction manual than a warning. I think it means once it starts counting toward you, there is no version of waking it left to avoid. There is only waiting to hear which number is yours. If you've made it this far, I want to ask you something, and I need you to actually consider it before you answer, even silently, even in your own head. Do you know your number? Because it does.